Hi, welcome to this special session of the MOOC about platform thinking. Today we've got a guest with us. We've got Alessandro Tommasi, who's founder and CEO of Will. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Okay, so let's start from beginning. Let's start from you. Tell us something about you.
Well, not that there's much to say, but I'm 36 years old. I actually graduated from the University here in Milan, International Relations. I worked at the European Parliament for a couple of years, then moved to Confindustria, which is the biggest trade association here in Italy. And then I actually worked 5 years as a lobbyist, a consultant in a lobbying firm, then moved to Airbnb, where I was the head of Italy for public policy, and then moved to Lime, the e-scooters company that invaded several cities across Europe, and I was the head of campaigning for Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Okay, and so tell us something about Will.
Well, Will is my latest venture, I'd say. It's actually the first company that I founded. We started in 2020, January 2020, so less than a month and a half, something like that, before the first lockdown here in Italy, because Milan was hit hard, as we all know. And basically, Will started as an Instagram page, then moved to Facebook, podcast, YouTube, LinkedIn, and several other platforms as, let's say, as a landscape, as a tool to understand what is going on in the world without being too much overwhelmed by the breaking news. We don't do breaking news. We don't report the latest statement by this or that politician. That's not our cup of tea. What we do is we try to give the tools to people to understand what is going on in the world, embracing complexity, but trying to put things as simple as possible. That's what we do. We now have a community of over 1 million followers on Instagram, which is a pretty big milestone for us, of course. But it's a vanity metrics if you think about it. The followers base. It is important to see the engagement, and I think that's a real interesting part. We actually did this thing. It's Will Meets. We travel across the country. Last summer, we visited 20 different cities and actually internal areas, let's say, so less populated areas, small villages, big towns, and all of that. And we met with people in real life, which after a couple of years seemed like crazy. And the fact that we brought 50 people on average on every meeting that we had, very normal people, let's say. It's not those that are normally involved in politics, people that are not involved into the news or they don't read the news. And actually there was this mother. She was with her daughter that lives in Milan. We were in province of Naples. And basically this girl returned home for a couple of days and she wanted to attend our meeting. And the mother said, well, I'm not going to waste a full afternoon without you. So she came together with her daughter. She had no clue what we were doing. And after the discussion, she came to us and said, thank you, because you gave me a reason to start questioning myself about, the future, how I'm doing, what I'm doing to shape the future my daughter is going to live in. And I think that's fantastic. So that's what we're trying to do.
So how would you describe the Will's mission? So what do you really do?
That's a good question. We try to iron down complexity. We try to do that through whatever tools we have on the different platforms, being Instagram, Facebook, or any other platform that we use. We try to do that so that nobody feels like they are being left behind in front of the complexity of the world. We believe that change has never been so quick and so complex, so complicated, right? So speed and complexity are the two factors that risk to push people out of the public debate. We want to avoid that. We try to stop that by slowing things down a little bit. When I said that we don't report the news, that what we're trying to do, we decide what to talk about, even though there's no anchor in the news, let's say. And on the other side, we try to iron down the complexity. So we split it into small bits, into snacks, if you like, this idea of the explanatory journalism. And so that's what we give out as an output to people. We give them the tools to understand what is going on and maybe to look good at a nice dinner, as we say in our Instagram bio.
How do you generate the contents? So do you find them outside or you got an internal production for them?
We do have an internal team. We have a team of 31 people now, free one. That's pretty big for us. We double compared to last year. That's our second year, almost. Let's say over those 30 people we have me and then CFO and a couple of supporting functions, let's say, then 6 plus people in the graphic, video editing, and so forth. And then the biggest chunk, let's say, it's the authors, of course. It's people so fond of their arguments, their topics, so interested in what they're meant to talk about in Will, that they have, in a sense, they are their own source of the information. Me, for example, I love the platform, the platform regulation in particular. So I have, I don't know, like 50 plus newsletters talking about technology, innovation, digital, and the regulation of the platforms and so forth. So all those newsletters, in a sense, contribute to shape the idea that I have, my priorities, in a sense, what I see that it is worth to spread in the talent community, in a sense. Most of those news come from abroad. They're in English. Maybe there's a first language barrier. So we try to do that. And this happens with every authors. Sometimes we do have the temptation, in a sense, to talk about what is in the news, in the newspapers. We try to avoid that also by using a clear process. So we plan our topics every 3 months. So quarterly, we decide our topics. Then we go down to every 2 weeks. We try and see if everything is going according to plan or so. And then weekly, we actually schedule all the contents. Once everything is down, basically we don't touch them anymore during the week. That's almost true, let's say.
So basically, in this way, you schedule the contents a lot ahead, and in this way, you're not influenced by what is happening, day by day. Is that the idea?
That is exactly the idea, and also because, of course, the team is very diverse. But we do come from either political backgrounds or we do love politics. So there's always temptation to say, this is what we should talk about. And that is what happened. That is what is happening in your bubble, not outside of the bubble. The bubble of my friends my bubble is made of founders, startup founders. We talk about financing rounds, stock options, stuff like that. That's not normal. Talking over pizza about that kind of stuff. Then there's bubble of talking, of people talking about, I don't know what's going on in Africa and blah, blah. Everything is valuable, of course, whatever makes you happy. Bubble, bubble, bubble. We try to pop up those bubbles to exploit them, and we do that by, again, having a clear plan, a 3 months plan, and we try to stick to that.
So your people bring with them the bubbles. So you got bubble with the person in the middle and bubble with person. So what's your recruiting strategy? So you're looking for people, you're looking for bubbles, you're looking for content. So how does it work?
We're looking for diversity, which is something very abused as a word. I hate the idea of tokenism. We really look for people that think that in a different way from us. Most of the people that are in the team at Will, probably I would argue over beer for hours and hours about politics with them, and that's the beauty. Let me give you an example of the importance of diversity. Every day at 4 p.m. or so, we have our check meeting. During the check meeting, the whole team gathers and try to destroy what we planned for the day after. That is a moment in which ego are zeroed, because if you are the author or the graphic designer that made that post, you're actually going to be really pissed by the idea that people are saying, "Oh, that's wrong," or "We should have done it differently." But actually, that's the moment in which egos are zeroed, but on the other side, will is, in a sense, is enabled to the best, because then all the diversity, all the bubbles contribute to say, that post doesn't resonate to me, or I really don't understand that post. If I share that post, I will be embarrassed, in front of my friends, because they'll say, I want to look like something I'm not. So all of these things contribute to shape the post and the article, the video, whatever you want to think about. And then I think that's why our content are so rich most of the time. Sometimes we do mistakes, of course, but most of the time that's where the richness comes from.
You were mentioning at the beginning that you were born as an Instagram page. You were mentioning Will Meet, like the format where actually you left Instagram and you enter in the real world and you were really seeing people. Over these years now, you created many different formats, many different ways of communicating complexity in an easy way. Would you like to tell us something more about the different formats you created, how you actually decided to develop one of them, and what you've got in your portfolio right now?
So Instagram, our queen, it was natural. The whole team uses it, so it was natural for us to use it. And again, it was ramping up. If you look at the graph in April, it was going up. In April 2020, we did over 96,000 followers in only 1 month. Very limited advertising, so that's a very good result. But it was natural. Everybody was looking for information. People are talking about infodemia, right? This idea of searching for information. Then you have Facebook. It's a little bit more of a complicated relationship with Facebook. It's getting older as a platform, and reality is that when you look at the numbers of some big communities, you still have millions of people, you know, in one community, but they're just there. I mean, they're sleeping followers in a sense. Nobody is using it, and we found a hard time actually at the beginning with very racist comments at the early days and stupid stuff. Like we posted this photo of Bill and Melinda Gates, saying that they I think they donated X billion dollars for education around the globe, and the comments were like, "Oh, we knew what you did to these girls in India." I was like, "No, you don't. We definitely don't know what he did in India with those girls." Anyway, I think we worked a lot with the community. We're trying to improve the comment section. Now it's getting better. People are not there anymore. I think the platform is working a lot to bring people back on Facebook. Not the easiest task, I guess, for Mark. He has a lot on his plate. And then you have podcasts. Audio is a big part for us. We now have 4 podcasts. 3 out of 4 podcasts have been #1 in Italy on Spotify. That's a big pat on our shoulder. We do have one exclusive podcast with Spotify. That's an interesting way in starting to monetize podcasts. The idea that a platform gives you money to create original content, so they believe they're gonna bring new followers, new people, new listeners, new subscribers to the platform. I think it's an interesting thing. We didn't get the $100 million that Joe Rogan got, but still working on it. We also use other platforms, of course, when the content is not exclusive, being Apple Podcasts or so on. YouTube, we're part of the YouTube Sustainability Lab, together with 65, I think, other publishers around the globe. It's a big thing for us. It really meant a lot, and it's the opportunity for us to grow YouTube. You may think it's just the longer version of the Instagram video, but it's not. It's a completely different community. It's the second biggest search engine, YouTube. So you need to think about it in that way. When you're producing the content, you're writing the title, writing the description, and all of that. So everywhere you go, you need to be there because there's a community that wants you there. But you need to speak the language of that platform, of that community. If you pretend to be, a TikToker on YouTube, it's not going to work, and the other way. So I think that's a pretty big challenge for us, and I think I learned it during my times at Line. It's density that brings loyalty in a sense, right? So what I mean by that. People expect you to be in their platform, expects you to be around the corner if you're a scooter company. They want you to be there, they want you to be safe, reliable, the best quality ever, but in let's say, in the terms that they need at the moment. Either it's a bike, a scooter, or a car sharing service. And again here, audio, video, short post, infographic. I want you, I know Will, so I think it's a reliable source, but now I moved to somewhere else and I expect you to be here. Why are you not here? If you're not here, I'm gonna move to somewhere else.
Sorry, I got a question about this because you said that, of course, when you move from one platform to another, you need to adapt what you do. So you cannot do on TikTok, on Instagram, you have a way back. So this thing is more like a constraint for you, so it's a problem. You know that you need to move to another platform and okay, now you need to adapt what you do to understand how it works and so on. Or it is more a kind of an opportunity. So it's a different way of doing things. So maybe this is boosting what I'm doing and I can do things that I were not able to do before.
being an entrepreneur, I have to say it's a big opportunity for Apple. Of course, it's a challenge. It is a challenge. It's complicated to do. You need to create teams that are dedicated to each platform, so it's expensive also, but it's the only way to actually do something meaningful. We tried to do take some shortcuts, to be honest. So we said, okay, let's cross-post it on YouTube, and then saying, oh, it's not working out because you're not talking the language people expect you to talk. So I think it is actually a big opportunity. It's a great opportunity to do incredible things. I love the idea of platforms. I'm a big fan. To be honest, there's no other way we could have reached 1 million people in 2 years, right? That this fast, it's fantastic. We can reach an incredible amount of number of people, and it's incredibly meritocratic, right? If you posted something that it's meaningful to people will gonna watch it. You're gonna subscribe to your channel and blah blah blah. It's up to you to actually create something that is valuable. And again, the first coin that you exchange is time. You're asking people time. So if they trust you, say, okay, I'm gonna sit here and watch this YouTube video. It's gonna take 20 minutes, 5 minutes. If it's relatable, interesting, funny in a sense, people are gonna spend their time.
In this cross-platform strategy, you see mainly the community moving across various platforms, or you have like different niches on the various platforms?
On one side, you see the core of your community moving around, and in a sense, it's rewarding as an experience because you can see a loyal part of your community moving around. And when we launched the podcast, the demographic of anything we could see on Spotify or on other platforms was exactly the same of Instagram or a subgroup of that. Challenge is to build on top of that, because otherwise you're creating another bubble instead of going outside of those bubbles. So the challenge is to have loyal followers, let's say, moving with you on other platforms, and then include other people that were not part of your community. Instagram, for example, it's very, it's more female than male in a sense, right? There's 60-something%, I think, in Italy, women, 40-something% male. Maybe YouTube is not the same. Facebook is more male than female or so. So if you just bring your own community to other platforms, you're talking always to the same people, and that's not what we want to do. We want to actually be as inclusive as possible, and that means include as many people as possible in the public debate through our community and our content.
I was kind of surprised and amazed when I saw you also on LinkedIn with a completely different approach, like presenting the team, bringing the LinkedIn community in your place, not with the news, but actually with who you are, what you do, how you work internally. And I was wondering, is this kind of platform strategy somehow a strategy? So how do you decide to join a different platform? How you think about a new format or content for that word?
Well, thank you for bringing that topic up, because actually it's not working. Meaning that we expected LinkedIn to be a professional network of people there to exchange experiences, learnings, lessons learned, and stuff like that. Actually, we see that when we cross-post some of the contents, actually they perform pretty well. But I do believe that LinkedIn is also kind of a behind-the-scene moment where we try and explain how we landed to that content or the video, what we meant, or the fact that we launched some survey on Instagram and then here are the results. I really do believe there's a chance to use LinkedIn in this sense. Unfortunately, LinkedIn is becoming a little bit more of like, something extra inspirational stories and stuff. And in a sense, it's closing the gap down, in my humble opinion, closer to other social networks rather than completely different kind of community. There's part of the community is pushing down, and it's more similar to Facebook, what Facebook was, rather than something more work-oriented. But yeah, it is a strategy. And again, I think that the main purpose is to keep up with the promise that we do. On Instagram, we made a promise with our community saying, this is the content we're going to give you. It's never going to be something that is going to divide the community. It's something that's going to be inclusive. It's never going to be political. It's never going to be made on the rush. On LinkedIn, we're going to do something different. On podcasts, we're going to give you more time, more blah, blah. So if you can keep up with that promise, then things eventually will work, I hope. Otherwise, people will get confused or be confused at the end of the day. So yeah, there's a strategy, and we try to make that work, hopefully.
Okay, one last question on the content side, and then one last question on opinions, I would say. You were mentioning the exclusive agreement with Spotify for one of your podcasts. I think this is part of something wider. What's your business model being a complementer, starting as a complementer on Instagram and then moving around various platforms?
Yeah, so I'd say, well, at the moment, to be honest, there's not much of a strategy here. We do monetize. We know how to monetize on the platform. Right now, I would say 80% of our revenues are made through branded content. So we do co-create contents with brands or third parties in general. On this 80%, Instagram is a really, really big chunk. It's the place to be for most of the brands. TikTok is too new for most of the brands. Instagram is reassuring in a sense for them. So we're in the right place at the right moment. So we do monetize in that way. And I think it's interesting, but every day I wake up and say, what's next, right? How actually to innovate on the language or innovate in the way we do things. And there's an educational part of this because brands, they all say, oh yeah, we don't want the product. We know that's over. It's so 80s. And then you're like, can you put the product? And it's like, no, we said at the very beginning, right? So there's an educational part. You need to move the brand together with you in a more value-driven communication. That's what we want to do. And I actually sent a couple of emails saying, thanks, but no thanks. I think there's no way for us to match up, to partner up. At the end of the day, if we do it, if we insist in this collaboration, both of the parties will be unsatisfied. So let's be honest, we're not the partner you're looking for. Do somewhere else. We'll be happy and wish you all the best. So that's a big part. You mentioned before that I worked at Airbnb, and I know how much people that are actually populating your platform are. Like, they are really important for the success of your platforms. So now I go and knock on every platform and say, hey, I'm the one making your platform richer. I say, how can you help me out? Can you help me growing? Can you teach me all the tools that you have? I actually recognize that the product may be improved. So here's a couple of an example. And I think it's useful because people like us using Instagram, for example, all the day can actually see where the bugs are. The business manager for Facebook is everything but perfect. So there's a lot of room for improvement. They know that, and I think we are an interesting partner for them, not only on the commercial side.
So there is one last question that we are trying to make to our guests in these special sessions, which is, this is a MOOC on platform thinking. And you are definitely a platform thinker. So you were working for platforms. You are leveraging platform to create your own business that has platform dimensions in it. And we know with all the examples you were mentioning, that the big names you've done, that platforms entered in our daily life, change it, and probably for good, or at least for a bit of time ahead. What do you see in the future of platforms? What's the big next thing? What's new trends? Whatever you'd like to share with the people listening to us.
I have no clue, to be honest. I would have created if I knew. We're actually working on something to turn Will into something closer to a platform. I think platform is something that technology enabled. We know the technology that has, that enabled this kind of platform, this kind of scale, and that's not going away. We are now learning by doing a lot of mistakes as well, that platform can have some unforeseen negative effects somehow. Scale can have some negative effects, but I think the platform idea is here to stay. It's fascinating. It's fantastic. I was in Naples the other day, and I rent a bike through an app. We now give it for granted, but it's pretty fantastic. It's only one app. I use it in Tel Aviv. I use it in San Francisco, and then I use it in Naples. Always the same, never ask for any cash, changing coins or nothing. I unlocked it by a QR code. The two things talk, the bike and the phone, that talk to each other and allowed me to do a tour in the city, biking and look at the city in a completely different way. This is not going away, in my humble opinion. Every company needs to become a data company and a platform company in any part of their business. Otherwise, I think there's no way they're gonna have any success. For anything on top of that, I think I'll join the course, and you can tell me more about that.
Thank you very much, Alessandro, for being here with us and for sharing all these amazing stories from Will. Thank you.